Good evening, I'm Alistair Cook. We're now at the third, next to the last episode of Parnell and the Englishwoman. A phrase, a headline that scandalized every newspaper reader in Britain in 1890. Now, of course, there had been other affairs, lots of unfaithful politicians, but they were usually insignificant as public figures. More often, they kept the Victorians' 11th commandment, thou shalt not be found out. But Parnell was a famous politician, a single-minded crusader for Irish Home Rule, a hypnotic leader who in his early years in Parliament was often able to stall all legislation that had not to do with Ireland by denying the government the now 80 votes of the Irish members, or he filibustered the House of Commons into a coma. Now, Parnell came to this cause of self-rule for Ireland when he came home from school and college in England and saw and was horrified by the semi-slavery of the tenant farmers. Of the 600,000 farms in Ireland, about 300,000 were no more than 3 acres, which in the best of times hardly paid the rent, and in the worst of times the landlords went in for wholesale evictions and practically sentenced thousands of farming families into starvation. Parnell, in his 30th year, went into Parliament, took hold of the Irish members, made them into a Home Rule party, badgered the Liberal government into passing tenant reform bills, never let up on Home Rule, and unfortunately, in his more passionate moments, embraced some dangerous allies. So that when a new Secretary of State for Ireland and his deputy were murdered in a Dublin park, Parnell was widely suspected of being involved. Of course, he was not, but 2 or 3 of his enemies were prepared to manufacture proof of his implication.
I the first to go. Well, tell the others I died easy. No matter if I don't. It'll put a heart into them. Ah, poor Ireland. Poor old Ireland!
Piggott. Oh, how do you do, Mr. Eustace? Long look forward to pleasure. Your reputation goes before you.
Will you take coffee?
Whatever there's most of.
Mr. Piggott, may I make so bold as to ask if you are at present in employment?
Oh, bits and pieces, dribs and drabs, Mr. Houston. It's hard going for a man not in the first bloom, but with a young family to support.
So, you would be receptive to an offer?
Make it, sir, make it. Thank you. You'll excuse me for asking, sir, but are you not attached to the Times of London?
I was so until lately. I've since moved on to greener meadows. You have perhaps heard of the Irish Loyal and Patriotic Union?
Oh, have I not? Greener indeed, sir. Although perhaps green is not the preferred colour.
Hardly. My motto is Ireland for the English.
Your motto, sir?
I have the honour to style myself secretary to the Union. Mr. Piggott, early this morning, I was at Mountjoy Prison. The Phoenix Park assassins are safely hanged, all 5 of them.
A good morning's work, sir.
It would be a better one if the ringleader were not still at large.
The ringleader?
I refer to Parnell. We believe that Lord Cavendish and Mr. Berg were probably murdered on Parnell's orders. Certainly with his declared approval. The Union is determined to find evidence that will bring him to book. Now, our purse is not bottomless, but happily our friendships are many. We offer you £1 a day with all expenses.
Most generous.
You ask what we'd expect in return?
The earth, I imagine.
Oh, less than that. Around Dublin, the story is that yours is a nose that can smell out secrets. What we require is evidence, sir. Letters, documents, whatever will put Parnell at the end of a rope. What says your nose to that?
You give me the time. I'll give you the proof.
Mrs. O'Shea, is it? Won't you come in? Be seated, madam. Mr. Stewart asked that as his friend, you should be informed of my prognosis. That is agreeable to you?
Yes. Yes, of course.
First, as regards the chronic kidney disorder, I suspect nephritis, Bright's disease. I shall require to see the patient again in a week's time. Also, Mr. Stewart's reserves of strength are used up to a degree which, quite frankly, gives grounds for alarm. He requires complete rest. Try to see if possible.
Mr. Stewart has taken lodgings at Eastbourne.
No better place. I am recommending a particular diet, and I have prescribed certain medicines. Do you happen to have small children, Mrs. O'Shea?
My youngest is aged 2.
Which will make you the perfect nurse for a grown man. And will you bear this in mind? It is vital Mr. Stewart's extremities be kept warm and dry. On no account must he catch cold. I suggest that he carries spare socks with him always, of a different color to those that he has on.
The color is important.
Utterly. Then this lady, this ministering angel of yours, will know at a glance if you've changed them in accordance with my instructions. Well, shall we say a week hence at the same hour? Do you have a carriage? In this weather, I don't recommend that you go in search of one.
Perhaps your servant could be of some assistance, Sir Henry. Might I impose?
Certainly. If you'll forgive me, Mrs. O'Shea, I want a parting word with my patient. We shall meet again, I'm sure.
What did the doctor say?
He wanted to let me know in his artful way that he knew who I was.
You and he had already met, perhaps?
In Ireland, we have a saying, more people know Tom Fool than Tom Fool knows.
My love, would you mind going down to Eastbourne alone today? I thought to stay in town with Anna tonight and join you tomorrow.
I'm taken aback. Is this a whim?
Rather an inspiration. While you were with Sir Henry, the thought occurred to me that while I'm in town, I may as well see my own doctor.
You're not ill.
Then perhaps I should go and see how Willie's getting on. He's been so quiet of late.
I must return to my guests, so I'll be brief. You've been of some service to me, so the least I can do is repay you with some good advice. Resign your seat. Don't delay, do it now.
Beg your pardon?
Save what money you can.
Seems to be the day for poor jokes.
But politically, you're done for. You've allowed your hatred of Parnell to poison your mind and your life.
Well, he's vile. You yourself despise him.
I can't stand the fellow, but I'm hardly in your position. I do not owe my seat in Westminster to the man I detest. I tell you, O'Shea, there is not a member on either side of the House who believes that seat was too dearly bought.
Damned hypocrites. Call themselves gentlemen.
Well, they do not call you one. But one day I shall be in power again. Who knows if that old fool decides not to live forever, I may even be Prime Minister. I could use your services. First, you would require to be re-elected. Under present circumstances, Captain O'Shea, that will never happen. You have had my advice. Good evening to you.
Willie? Willie, are you at home? Oh. Is Captain O'Shea in?
Out, some would say.
Kate.
Awake at last. Oh, Willie, you drink far too much.
When did you get here?
Beg your pardon. Excuse me, will you repeat that? When did I get here?
No,
Really, I find that joke in extremely poor taste. I come to think of it, in doubly poor taste. Surely can't be that you don't remember?
Well, of course I remember. It's just that I'm not quite awake yet. I'm just trying to gather my thoughts. Did I happen to be alone when you arrived?
Oh, it's true. You have no recollection. I knew I should have gone home. Why did I not insist?
Oh, Kate, you're quite right to take me to task. I did overindulge, I admit it. Fact is, I was with Joe Chamberlain, and a fellow upset me.
Well, I think you might at least have the civility to get up. See me to my cab.
Hmm? Oh, yes. Beg pardon. I mean, any chap would have drunk too much. You know, you said I should resign.
Resign from what? Who says?
Joe Chamberlain says I'm finished in politics.
Do you mean resign your seat? You cannot.
Chamberlain says a gentleman would not stay.
Resign now. 4 months after the by-election. Oh, Willie, for heaven's sake. Mr. Parnell all but lost his leadership because of you, and now you talk of resignation. How can you? You'd be a laughing stock.
Willie, indeed.
Oh, Willie. At least think of the children. With their father in Parliament, they have a standing in the eyes of others. At school, they are looked up to. And what of me? Am I not to be thought of?
My God, Kate, you're so a damned handsome woman.
Oh, Willie, you're a greedy pig.
Mr. Piggott, I do not know this gentleman.
This is Dr. Maguire from Trinity College.
My business is with you alone, sir. You seem not to be aware of the risk I take.
Mr. Piggott,
Please, no names, I beg of you.
if payment is to be made, I cannot on my own authorize it. Now, what have you for us?
Yonder at the Shelbourne are 2 men. I am to return to them in 15 minutes with either this letter or £500.
Give it to me.
Be very careful with that.
Dear sir, I'm not surprised at your friend's anger, but he and you should know that to denounce the murders was the only course open to us. And to do that promptly was plainly our best policy. But you can tell him and all others concerned that, though I regret the accident of Lord Cavendish's death, I cannot refuse to admit that Burke got no more than his deserts. Charles S. Parnell.
What impudence.
haven't made an S like that since 1876.
My love, is that all you have to say?
Yes, and that the coffee is excellent.
Sometimes you are as stubborn as Willie.
Now you go too far.
Charles, you must take action.
And by so doing, give credence to a clumsy lie.
It's in the Times.
Which you, my dear, in common with others of your benighted race, confuse with the Book of Common Prayer.
Then you won't defend yourself? You break my heart.
And so saying, break mine. I shall finish my breakfast, smoke a cigar, spend another hour at my assaying.
The devil take you, and it.
I shall go to Westminster and inform the House. The letter is an audacious and unblushing forgery, and the Times has allowed itself to be hoaxed, hoodwinked, and bamboozled.
Dear.
And with the possible exception of members of my own party, and I say the possible exception, not one person in the House will believe a word I say.
Go now. Don't wait.
I shall cancel the Times. It is becoming far too sensational.
Willie's returned from his cure at Carlsbad.
And has he been cured?
Ben's coming here tomorrow. Sounds fearfully cross. Finds himself W.H. O'Shea.
At least he can no longer put MP after it. He's not staying the night, is he?
What do you want here? Hmm? No answer.
Please, sir, we come to see him.
Him? Good God. Go on, be off with you. Clear off!
I'm truly glad to see you, Willie. Even though yesterday's letter was the most insolent you've written me.
Oh, you call it so? I choose to regard it as a masterpiece of restraint. You have become the object of common gossip.
Common gossip by common people. Your usual sherry, dear?
Whiskey. Small.
Your jealousy of Charles has so blinded you to all reason that you run to believe whatever most vilifies me and degrades you. Have I not visited you at Albert Mansions, given you tokens of my affection?
I remember.
Although on that last occasion you seem to remember so little else. No, that's unfair. I could have left and I chose not to, and now we must share the responsibility. You agree? Well?
On the journey back from Carlsbad, I came to a decision.
Did you hear what I said?
Now that I need no longer work myself to death on behalf of scum, I see no reason why we should continue to live in London. I thought of Devon, Torquay, perhaps.
Really?
Or even Spain. Then I'd be close to my mining interests. Why not? What matters is the children be removed from unwholesome surroundings.
Do you mean this house? Eltham, London?
I say nothing.
On the contrary. What you're saying, and very distinctly, is that you and I are once more to live together.
As your husband, I do have the right to require that.
Yes, I suppose you do.
Then you agree?
Entirely. Yes, Willie, bear us off to Spain or remote Torquay. I hope I know my duty as wife. Whither thou goest, I go. I most certainly know that your duty as a husband is to provide for us. And how do you intend to do that, Willie? Out of your mining interests? Aunt Ben won't help you. At least not on this side of the grave. She's 93, but she is well. Another whiskey, dear? We see so little of you these days.
letter had you in sympathy with the Invincibles. This one put your hand in glove with them. It's an incitement to murder.
They could hang him.
They could try.
Whoever the author is, spelling is not his strong point.
Yes, the mistake is glaring.
Is it?
There are two of them.
With the first letter, you were too lofty, too grand to take action. Oh, never apologize, says you. Never explain. Well, this time you will have to act. Aye, and quick about it.
Lest there should remain a particle of doubt, let me weary the House by again denouncing the letter as a forgery. I never wrote it. I never signed it. I never directed it to be written. I never authorized it to be written, and I never saw it. Even the Attorney General has admitted that if the letter is fraudulent, then it is the worst libel ever perpetrated on a public man.
If it is libel, then let the members sue.
Alas, the Attorney General's compassion stops short at bestowing upon this public man the means to defend his character. I have asked that a select committee of this House be set up to investigate these forgeries. My request has been refused. What I have been offered is a special judicial commission to investigate the charges made in and by the Times newspaper against members of Parliament and other persons. I call the attention of the House to those three insignificant words, and other persons. And I ask myself, who are these other persons? Could the answer be this, that this is not to be an inquiry into the vilification of one man? It is to be a trial. And these other persons in the dock, besides myself, are to be the Irish people.
Mr. Speaker, it's as clear as day itself why the honourable member is averse to the setting up of the proposed commission. He knows only too well what the consequences will be when... No, I should be charitable to say if its result is to show that more than one member of his party has been dabbling in assassination.
It is not the first time that fair play has been denied to Irishmen. And I do not suppose it will be the last. Nor is it the first time you have poisoned the bowl and used the dagger against your political opponents in a country where you could not overcome them in fair fight. To your cowardice and treachery, you add hypocrisy. You spike our guns, then sneer that we have not the courage to man them. I say to you, let us have your commission then. And the sooner the better. We welcome it. We shall be a match for it.
Mr. Parnell. Sir, that was very fine. I was moved. It gave heart to us all.
You were heartened. Good.
Sir, as an advocate of, I think I may say, some experience, I intend to represent myself before the Commission.
Indeed. And you will have the comfort of knowing that your client is innocent.
And I would be most willing to appear as counsel on your behalf as well.
Would you now?
In a junior capacity, I need hardly say. If your solicitor would be so good as to offer me a brief.
Healy, with all due respect, I think you should act as counsel only for yourself.
Oh, it is not in the least an imposition. I would be more than willing.
Thank you. No.
Mr. Parnell, do you mean to insult me? You're saying that you reject my offer.
I decline it.
I see. Michael Davitt told me that you would neither forgive nor forget that I opposed you in Galway over Captain O'Shea. Is that it? Is this my punishment?
I do not wish you to be my counsel. The reasons are my own.
My God, I have put up with much. Sir, 7 years ago, at a time of crisis and when you were not to be found, I opened a letter addressed to you. As my punishment, I was expelled thereafter from your good regards, and not for a moment did I waver in my loyalty. You are a law to yourself. You treat not only me, but all of us like...
'94. Can't say she didn't have a good innings.
Anna, Edward, shall we meet at the lodge? I think not, Catherine. I really haven't the inclination. But are you coming to town?
Yes, splendid. Goodbye, Catherine, Willie. I think I may safely say on behalf of the family that you haven't heard the last of it.
Well, I think they both showed damn bad manners. And poor sportsmanship.
Face it, Willie. What if it had been Anna or Edward who'd been left £144,000?
Well, it wasn't.
And it was you and I who'd ended up with not a penny? Would you have been sportsmanlike, Willie?
I think I can fairly say that I've always taken life's reverses as they came. Mind, I don't deny that to be a man of means at long last is not unpleasant.
Are you a man of means, Willie?
Good as, you know.
I'm glad you think so.
My dear Kate, a wife's property
Is no property at all. It belongs to her husband. Unless, of course, as in this case, it has been bequeathed to her outside the marriage settlement.
Oh, no, I say, look here.
Dear Willie, I shall be generosity itself. As long as you are an agreeable and well-behaved boy, so you have no cause for reproach.
When have I ever been anything less than agreeable?
Quite right, dear. What can I be thinking of? When shall you testify before the commission, Willie?
Oh, well, next week sometime. There are to be 400 witnesses, apparently. Confounded things can last for months. Why do you ask?
Why? Oh, I thought that I might like to come along and see my Boise in the witness box. How exciting it shall be.
Call Captain William O'Shea. During your membership of the House of Commons, were you on friendly terms with Mr. Parnell?
I was for a time. Then I changed my opinion of him.
I wish to know, at the suggestion of my client, what it was that altered your good opinion.
Certain things came to my knowledge which absolutely destroyed the good opinion I had hitherto held of Mr. Parnell. I wish to add that I believed Mr. Parnell to be absolutely free from any connivance with outrage. I still did not think him implicated, even after I had changed my opinion of him.
And yet you have said to the Attorney General that you believed Mr. Parnell's signature on the Times letter to be genuine. Do you stand by that answer?
When I first saw the letter in the Times, I did not think it genuine.
Well, now.
Not that I thought the handwriting was not genuine, which I did, but I did not think the letter was genuine. I trust I make myself clear.
As crystal, sir. I have no more questions.
Sir Charles, Sir Richard, the hour is advanced. We shall adjourn for today.
All rise.
Sir Charles, when do we get to the forgeries?
Oh, 2 or 3 months. February, perhaps.
Oh, my.
I like to leave the good wine for the feast's end.
Yes, but 2 or 3 months.
Come, sir, what kind of play is it that unmasks its villain in the first act?
Devil take all plays and courts of inquiry. What I want is for this infernal business to be done with.
Patience, Mr. Parnell. We still have nets to pass. Do you happen to know a journalist called Piggott?
I know of such a person. He owned newspapers in Dublin in 81. The Land League wanted to found their own publication. They struck a price, bought him out. Is he the same?
Yes, he is. And he is our man.
Piggott. He forged the letters.
Why do you laugh?
I laugh at myself. I had quite set my heart on the forger being Willie O'Shea.
Come along, Claire.
I much prefer this house to the lodge. The sea air will be good for the children.
The lodge was mine. This house will be ours.
Yours, I think. I, as ever, will be the visitor.
Well, not for as long as you think. As soon as the money is in my hands, I intend to make Willie a gift. Perhaps £25,000.
You mean to buy him body and soul?
Willie never had a soul that I noticed. But it may help to rid me of his body. All he has to do is to allow me to go into court and name one of the ladies in his life. Good heavens, there have been enough of them.
He won't let you go. He hates me too much.
Not as much as he loves money.
Anna?
I hope this isn't inconvenient.
No. Pleasure. Do come in. Will you take a glass of sherry? Of course, your note. I was charmed and intrigued to receive it. I was, I confess, under the impression we were no longer on the best of terms.
Did that surprise you? Aunt Ben was my aunt as well as Catherine's.
Oh, my dear girl, I'm entirely on your side. Couldn't sympathize more.
I'm glad to hear that, Willie. And I know that you will bear no malice.
Why should I bear malice?
That is why I thought that you and I should talk. I wanted to make it quite clear to you that in our contesting the will, there'll be absolutely no enmity towards you.
Contesting the will?
My brother and I are bringing suit. What would you expect? It was monstrous that Aunt Ben should have left every last penny to Catherine and nothing to us. Our solicitor says we have an excellent case, even if it takes years.
Years?
We shall claim that there's been, what was this word? Undue influence.
You intend to sue? But that's not fair.
A moment ago, you were in sympathy.
Yes, and I sincerely was, because you hadn't the money and we had.
We? I think you mean Catherine. She cheated you as well as us. We didn't want it all. We never did. Only our fair share. Now she has it all to share with him. With Parnell.
No.
Willie, you know it is so. She is his mistress. And she deceived me as well as you. She swore to me it was no more than friendship, that she was making use of him so that your star might rise. She's betrayed us both.
And I say no!
Are you insane? All London knows it. The world knows it. And you were bought. Bought with promises. All these years you were cajoled with talk of Aunt Ben's inheritance, of how If you were to be rich, there must be no impropriety, no scandal. I heard her. I was there. Well, now she'll never be rich. No, nor you neither. Greed has undone her. She's betrayed us both, and she will pay.
Yes. She swore to me.
Falsely. Of course she did.
She swore she was innocent. And I was the blackest scoundrel for doubting her word. I always denied it for her sake and the children's, even when she and that devil were plotting against me. It was not enough for him to take my wife, make her his harlot. He must drag my life in the dust as well.
So, what would you have me do?
God, they've made a fool of me before the world.
Hmm? Look on. While my family's money goes to her and him and their children.
What?
We lead good lives and go poor, while they can just...
Children? What are you saying?
Only what you already know and pretend not to. Claire and baby Francis and the little one who died. They're his, of course.
No. No, I'll not have that, no. The children are mine.
Willie, they are not.
Liar!
Liar! I say they are!
What did you... don't hurt me.
Why should I hurt you? Hmm? She is the one I will hurt.
Shall I help you? Would you like me to? Very well. Let us hurt her.
Your name is Richard Piggott?
It is.
What is your profession?
I am a journalist.
And your address?
Sandy Cove Avenue, Kingstown, County of Dublin.
Mr. Piggott, had you anything to do, directly or indirectly, with the writing of letters signed with Mr. Parnell's name and published in the Times newspaper?
Nothing whatever. It is quite untrue that I forged the letters.
Has anyone accused you of forging them?
Pardon me? No. No. I was just making my position clear.
I have no more questions. Sir Charles, this is your witness.
Mr. Piggott, an hour ago at my request, you wrote down certain words. May I point out to you that hesitancy is properly spelled Hesitancy. You have spelt it Ency. The same misspelling occurs in the letter which gave rise to this investigation and was allegedly written by Mr. Parnell.
Do you tell me?
I do, Mr. Piggott.
Well, there is a reason for that.
Their lordships would be glad to hear it. They would like to know, too, why you've misspelt the word inexcusable, a mistake which also seems to have been perpetrated by Mr. Parnell.
Well, as a matter of fact, the reason is the same in both cases. That remark about the misspelling was made long since. Sure, it was famous. And I thought about it so much that the rightful spelling went clear out of my head and the wrong spelling went into it.
This may be very amusing to you, but it's not to me.
Is that your explanation?
I know it may seem unlikely, but it is the gospel truth.
I could almost believe it.
Sir, you may believe it.
Alas, sir, I cannot. Here are some letters written by you to sundry persons as long ago as 1882. Some of them beg on various pretexts for money. Some of them, their lordships may construe to be attempts at blackmail. In each one of them, either the word hesitancy or the word inexcusable has been misspelled. How do you account for that?
You're the most popular man in all England. It isn't I they are cheering. The vindication of British justice in acquitting me.
Like it enough, the House will rise to you.
Let them. I shall sit.
Finally done, sir. A great victory.
It is good of you to say so.
A victory not only for you, but for your country and your cause. Give us another election and your day will be at hand.
Well done, Parnell.
You have an unerring sense of occasion, O'Shea? You choose this moment to revisit the scene of your better days?
I begin to despair. Will he never get his deserts?
Merely ask how high can one rise without falling. Look here. You engaged for dinner. My dear, I have a notion that our guest has so much on his mind that all forms of good humour have been squeezed out.
Oh, I do beg your pardon. I fear I am a poor guest.
Oh, not at all, Captain. Your silence has been positively poetic. I think I shall leave you gentlemen to your port and cigars. When I see you again, Captain O'Shea, I know you will be cheered up past recognition. It is a gift my Joe has. You may serve your master.
Oh, my friend, whatever it is, since it weighs on you so heavily, be quit of it.
She has betrayed me.
She? Do you mean your wife?
You have heard, I presume.
More. Say more.
She is Parnell's mistress.
Oh, that. Yes, I believe I've heard something of the sort, but then I never listen to scandal that affects my friends. So it is true, then. How did you first find out?
I don't know. I mean, I suspected. Then I was given assurances. Then I suspected again. I've been treated most shamefully.
You knew and you did not know. How vexatious for you.
I am a simple man. I cannot comprehend baseness in others. When at last I could no longer avoid the truth, I stayed my hand. There was the expectation of a legacy, money with which at last, I could have provided for my poor chicks. The children. What kind of a father would endanger their prospects with a scandal? So I held my tongue. And in the end, it was all for nothing. The lawyers have it.
The money?
Was in dispute.
Oh, my poor fellow. Well, at least now, if it's any poor consolation, your tongue no longer needs to be held.
Beg your pardon?
Or so you seem to me to be saying.
Ah.
Oh, now, go gently, my friend. I'm not so foolhardy as to invite the fate of one who steps between husband and wife. I merely think out loud. My thought is that the boldest course is often the wisest.
You would say so?
Well, look at the forger, Piggott. Fled to Spain, and there a wretched suicide. We all do what is forced upon us. Mr. Parnell might be triumphant now, but one day he will press the wrong adversary too hard. And then, my friend, what a fall there will be. There is a saying, is there not? He who smashes Parnell, smashes Parnellism. And now, might I be so inhospitable as to plead that I am as yet an affectionate bridegroom? Might we, do you think, join Mrs. Chamberlain?
Oh, my dear sir, by all means. A pleasure. Pleasure.
Excuse me, ma'am. Mrs. O'Shea, Mrs. Catherine O'Shea.
Yes?
Glad to have found you, ma'am. One of your servants said you might be hereabouts.
What is it, Kate? Who is this man?
Mr. Parnell, sir.
My name is Stewart.
Yes, sir. I have that name down as well, sir. Served upon you as correspondent, sir. Good day, sir. Good day, madam.
It's not in the nature of an offer, more of a tentacle put forth. Captain O'Shea has let it be known that he might, as his advisers take care to say, be willing to withdraw his petition subject to a consideration.
Money, I suppose. And has a sum been mentioned?
£20,000.
Mr. Lockwood, I do not have 20,000 pence, and my husband knows it. Shall I tell you why he seeks this divorce? Not because of any misconduct on my behalf or Mr. Parnell's, but because I no longer have the means to support him.
Indeed?
Mr. Lockwood, what is my position? Are there choices?
Oh, most certainly there are. On the one hand, you can enter a defense of connivance. That's to say, you can testify that in 23 years of marriage, your husband spent no more than 400 nights under the marital roof. You've already stated in your deposition that both before and during your association with Mr. Parnell, your husband was himself guilty of sexual misconduct on several occasions.
On frequent occasions?
Mrs. O'Shea, I must warn you that without the strongest evidence, his lordship will dismiss such allegations out of hand. We don't want to seem mischievous.
There is evidence. And I have this. When my husband served papers on Mr. Parnell and myself, I went to an inquiry agent.
A trifle late in the day, perhaps.
Do you think so?
Someone who contemplates divorce, Captain O'Shea is indiscreet. 4 occasions. Not wise. Not wise at all. And this, lady friend of his, this Mrs. Anna Steele, she's not known to you?
She's my sister. Is that what you'd call evidence?
Well, if attested to, there can be no doubt of it.
And so I shall be set free.
Free, my dear lady.
Don't you understand? I want to be quit of him. I want to divorce him.
Mrs. O'Shea, that's impossible with the evidence that exists against both parties. Neither your petition nor your husband can possibly succeed.
Do you mean that I shall remain tied to him? Then may my death not be long.
Mrs. O'Shea, you asked me, I think, if you had a choice. With this and the other evidence, you can block your husband's petition, and the marriage remains.
And the alternative?
You can let the case against you go undefended, and be free, as you put it.
And be beaten by him. Mr. Parnell ruined.
Good evening. No, this won't do at all. Why not that one?
Charlie, this is too bad of you.
Is it?
We make ourselves public, we shall give scandal.
My dearest Queenie, already we are an appetizer for the world's table. Tomorrow the main course will be served, and on the day after, the dessert. What a banquet they will make of us.
Don't.
Do you dread it so much?
A little. The courtroom, the questions, the faces. And yet I could bear it 10 times over if it was not that at the end of it all I shall still be his. Oh, forgive me. I'm selfish. I put myself first. I have nothing to lose. You have your entire life at stake. And the country as well.
The bill of fare.
I cannot take food. I marvel that you can.
And your pencil. And bid the head porter to come here at once.
Charlie, what are you doing?
Committing yet another crime. This time, forgery.
Forgery? In whose name?
Yours.
Charlie, what are you writing? I must know.
Tomorrow, if it is fine, before winter sets in. What you say to a day, not on the down.
You know we cannot. Tomorrow we... No, you mustn't. I forbid it. Whatever else, not that.
The first day I met you, 10 years ago in Palace Yard, I made up my mind to it that you would be my wife. I don't know why I even wavered. You will forgive me, I hope.
You sent for me, sir?
Yes. Have this telegraphed at the express rate.
Oh, we have forms for telegrams, sir.
Excellent. Then copy this onto one. You can read my hand, I hope.
George.
Any difficulties?
No, sir. Thank you, sir.
Very well, then. Queenie, your counsel will quite properly send word to know if that message is genuine. You will not let me down.
You fool. You really are the most foolish man.
I think I'm rather a clever one. And now that the die is cast, I'm also a confoundedly ravenous one.
Stay tuned as veteran news correspondent Bill Curtis continues his investigation of our nation's secret intelligence, next here on TV 12.